Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Advocacy, where tonight we have Miss Rosalind Morgan, who is her business is Caregiver Biz. So we're looking forward to that. Again, this is Thursday, August the 1st, and my name is Paula Armstrong. I'm the founder of Advocacy. I have a daughter, Morgan, who's 19, that is disabled, cerebral palsy and multiple disabilities. I also have a 24-year-old son, and I've been married for 3 years. I grew up in the DMV, and I'll pass the torch to one of my other co hosts.
Hello, everyone. I'm Crystal Francis, and I'm coming in from Michigan. I am a parent of 5 kids with different abilities.
Hello, everyone. I am Bunny. I am coming to you from Maryland. I have 3 adult children. I am married, and I advocate for my autistic grandson, Grayson. He is 7 now.
Wow. Okay. So, Rosin, we're going to turn it over to you. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and Caregiver Biz?
Absolutely. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Rosalind Morgan, and I grew up in the Washington, D.C. area, and actually in Washington, D.C., and later on moved to Maryland. I have 2 grown children. Matter of fact, I spent the whole weekend with them in New York. And my Caregiver Biz organization started as a result of me caring for my mother. I was her caregiver, and she had Alzheimer's. And during my journey as a caregiver, I could not find resources, and it was an extreme challenge for me. And no matter certain agencies that I thought could help me, they either did not help or they would send somebody and the person never came back. So that was a little confusing as to you're here to help, however you won't provide the help. So I understand what caregivers need. I understand the struggles as somebody, especially with someone with that Alzheimer's dementia disease. I clearly understand that. So that's how my business started.
Wow. Wow. Well, I do want to say that I did meet Miss Rosalind Morgan at the World of Possibilities, and just the topic of the title of her company, it drew me in because of course I've been a caregiver for all of Morgan's life, which she'll be 20 in September. And I didn't really understand all of what your company was about, but it made me, I don't know if you remember me, but I was like, oh, you have got to be on my podcast because we we are the forgotten community. We're so
Absolutely.
busy taking care of
Absolutely.
everyone else, but we're the forgotten community. And
Yeah.
I will say what you explained about your mom. I experienced that with my daughter. I used to say she must be the strangest person in the world because all these people say they got so much help and it's just plentiful and I'm sitting here struggling and I have no one to help.
Right.
So I honestly can understand where you're coming from with that. Um, what did you tell us? How long did you take care of your mom? And when you started this business, tell us a little bit. Did it start as a result of your mom, like when your mom was struggling with the Alzheimer's, or I'm assuming is she still with us?
No, she passed away in 2007. So she's been gone
Okay.
for a while.
Yeah, so tell us, when did it start? Did it start after the fact? Did it start doing that process? Tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, as far as my caregiving journey, actually started in 1999 when my mother lived in South Carolina. And we kept getting calls, when me personally kept getting calls from my aunt saying something's wrong with your mother. So we didn't know. So when I went there, something was wrong with her. My mother was the person that was the one people would go to. Extremely organized, always had it together, in church all the time. She stopped doing stuff. She was a hot mess when we got there. It's only my brother and I and my 2 children. That's pretty much the extent of my immediate family, even to this day. So when we got there, we realized something was wrong, but we didn't know what it was. Her doctors were horrible in there, South Carolina. They were horrible, giving her medicine that she did not need. My mother did not have high blood pressure. She didn't have heart issues. She didn't have diabetes, none of that stuff. But this doctor was giving her medicine that supposed to, for those things. So fast forward, when we got there, we realized something was wrong. Several visits later, my brother and I decided she couldn't live there anymore because this is I don't say it's a joke, but it's not a joke. She almost blew us up. So if that would have happened, I wouldn't be here today.
No.
So after that episode, we realized she couldn't stay there. So we moved her here, and she lived with me for 8 years until the day she passed.
How old was your mom when you first noticed something that was a little off with her, a little different?
She was 74, 75.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. She died when she was 82. So the strange part about it, we found out later that her older brother actually had it, but they didn't call it Alzheimer's. They called it senility. He was senile.
Oh, senile.
Yes, that's actually Alzheimer's. But nobody never talked about it to us. Even I asked my cousins after my mother passed, why didn't y'all tell me? Y'all knew. And I didn't really get a good explanation, but that's okay.
That's one thing about families. Those secrets aren't good. We need to know from generations on down all the medical, everything that happened. It's important to know that information.
And it's so true. Had I known that, like I said, my cousin, my mother's brother had it. His wife was an RN. We would see it right. That's the point.
They did call it senile back in the day. That's when we were younger. All I ever heard people say was somebody was senile. So I think the newer term is Alzheimer's or dementia.
And actually, that term's been around a while.
I'm about to say in our community. Yeah.
Right, especially in our community.
Yeah.
Yes.
We talked about it.
Right.
And that's the issue. So that's that's one thing that I'm a big advocate of spreading the word and talking to people about dementia, Alzheimer's, which Alzheimer's is under dementia. Dementia is the umbrella. A lot of people ask that question. What's the difference? Dementia is the umbrella. Alzheimer's is the one you have the most. It is under that. It is a dementia. I'll put it that way. There are about 200 different types of dementias.
Really?
It is. Yeah, I'm going to study them. It is.
Wow.
And the importance of that, cognitive impairment. Yeah.
Alzheimer's is the one you hear about the most.
It is.
And the way I look at Alzheimer's is I equate it to my mom. She had nothing else wrong with her, but her brain was deteriorating. She was extremely healthy.
Wow. And that's the hard part about stuff like that, because my ex-husband, his grandmother had Alzheimer's, and she did have diabetes, but when I say it wasn't something that kept her down, but she was healthy as a horse. She would walk for miles and miles and miles. Wow. I mean, physically she was great, but it was just her mind was deteriorating.
Yes, and that's what that disease does. Wow. And it's sad, it's unfortunate. You see this grown person. And in my mother's situation, she went all the way back to an infancy stage. Yeah. So, and some of them do get to that point and some don't. It all depends on, and I have a friend of mine's husband has it, and he's had it for 16 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, I always tell people, you can't compare each other. Everybody's symptoms are different. So you have to figure out, the best way to handle it, because they go through a lot of changes. And I know I'm explaining this to you as far as a caregiver, because as a caregiver, for me, I had to learn the different behaviors. My mother was she was a very mild-mannered person. When she got upset with my brother and anybody else, she would just be quiet. She'd give us a silent treatment. She wouldn't yell at us, and she never cursed. The disease, she started cursing.
Oh,
Wow. You think it was the medication? I think some
No,
medications.
my mother,
Oh,
when I moved her
I
here,
was trying to help her. I was trying to help her and say it was the medication.
no medication. When I moved her here, that's when she was diagnosed.
okay.
Awesome doctor. He's my doctor. He's my children's doctor. That's how great he was. He explained
Mm.
the disease to me. He explained what to expect. He is a holistic type doctor. So
Okay.
she wasn't really, because there's really no medication for the disease. They're working
Mm-hmm.
on it, the research is constantly going and it's much better than it was back then. So the way he treated her was awesome. So no, but medication. It was the disease. The disease can turn somebody like my mother, a mild mannered, soft spoken, never yell, to somebody who curses or
Mhm.
fight you. My mother, I had to learn how to duck because she showed this.
Oh,
And sometimes I wasn't so successful.
Oh, wow.
Wandering, that's another matter.
hmm
Yeah.
They want to go home because she always wanted to go home, even though with the disease for that period of time, we would go back and forth to South Carolina too, because she actually had a house there and we maintained it. My brother now lives in it. Um, so with all of that, trying to get help, the only help I had was my family, my mother, my brother, my two children, and my mother's doctor.
your mom didn't have any siblings, cousins?
Well, she was the youngest of nine.
Oh, wow.
They either passed away or they
Well,
lived
they
in South
couldn't really
Carolina,
do.
and she was
Yeah.
the last one out of the nine to pass away.
Mm.
So she was it. So by the time I moved her here, her when she was, I'll put it backtracking, when my mother and father moved from here to South Carolina after living here 30 years. And they moved there. So her brothers at the time took care of her. My father died 8 months after they moved there. So her brothers took care of her.
Okay.
Mm.
She was, they were there. Whatever she needed, they were there. By the time this disease kicked in, one had already passed of Alzheimer's, so the other one was headed that way.
Okay.
So there was no one else really. I mean, she had other siblings, but my mother was the last one out of the nine to go. So they
So
were
help me to pronounce the word. I hear people say Alzheimer's, Alzheimer's. How do you pronounce the word?
Alzheimer's.
Alzheimer,
Alzheimer's. Yes,
Mhm.
Alzheimer's.
yes,
Okay.
Mm.
that's
Mm.
how you pronounce it.
Okay.
So I can imagine the toll that it took on you. How did you do it?
Through the
How?
grace of God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna tell you, that's who I had to rely on to ask God to help me. Because even I, at one time, got angry with my brother because I felt he could do more. But I learned later he was struggling with seeing
Mm.
this, this mother
Yeah.
who he didn't know anymore.
He didn't recognize her.
Yeah.
Yeah, he lived, we both lived there. She lived with me. And so he didn't see a lot of things that she did to me or, or
Mm.
how she acted. But he, like the cursing thing, I called him and said, your mother cursed. And he was like, oh, you joking. That kind of thing. So when he heard it for the first time, it threw him off guard.
hmm
Wow.
When I would tell him that she would swing at me, again, he he didn't see it. But when he saw it, he was like, oh, wait a minute. I don't know who this lady is. And my children, the same thing. My mother was a joke. She loved to joke with them. They would visit her in South Carolina when they were kids. That's what they wanted in the summertime. They stayed with her in the summertime. But when this disease, she was not the same person.
Wow. I've heard
So
that.
they had to figure it out. So we kind of figured this thing out together. So they knew more of what was going on with her than he did. Because even though he lived about 20, 25 minutes away, he came to help me when I asked him. I'll put it that way. Yeah, he
Okay.
came to
Mm.
visit. If I really needed him to do something, he was there.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't say he wasn't helping. He was very, I just felt at that time. because I see now
It's a lot.
you would say it's a lot.
A lot.
It's day up, and I mean, from the time you get up in the morning, it's like caring for a baby. I
Yeah,
mean,
absolutely.
and as
Yes.
soon as you sit down, it just seems like, you know how they say sleep while the baby sleep. You
Right.
know, all of that type of stuff. It's like, but then if I sleep when the baby sleeps, then who's gonna, by the time I get
You
up,
got to
guess
get
what's
things
waiting for
done.
me?
Hmm.
All the stuff that I have to do. So it's a day in and day out thing. And it can take its toll on the caregiver. And this is where I
Absolutely.
felt like this was so important, because
Yes.
I think you see so many caregivers that are losing battles, and they
Right.
end up passing away before the people
Absolutely.
that they take care
Absolutely.
of,
Yes.
Yes.
because you're not given the help that you need. And I think some people just don't understand. They see, you come out, and I'm the type of person, I'm not gonna do no bunch of crying, and
Right.
that's
Thank
just
you.
not me. But
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I would get to the breaking point, because physically and mentally I was just so tired,
Yes.
that if somebody called me one of my confidants, I'm just gonna break down. You may not break down
Mhm.
again for another year or 6 months, but ultimately it's taking its toll on you. And when you don't get a way to get in breaks, you
Yes.
don't,
Yep.
you're getting up to it, you're going to sleep to it, it can take its toll on you. It can.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And it definitely can. And I work full time.
I
Oh
was about to
my
ask that,
Oh,
goodness.
wow.
Rosalind. I want to
Yes.
know in the
I
care
work.
of your mother. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
In addition, I worked a full time job. I had to be at work at 6:30, and I got off at 4. So another saving grace, when I moved to here, she did try to escape to go home several times. So I had to figure out, along with my brother, what to do. So we did find an adult daycare, which was another saving grace for me. So they picked her up before I went to work, and they brought her home afterwards. So that was a good thing. She don't remember going, but it's okay.
Yeah.
Hmm.
They were they kept her active. They went on trips. They did a lot of things. They had activities and a whole lot of things. So that was a blessing. It helped.
Yes.
Then when she got home, that's when all the other stuff. Another mistake I did, I brought her car. I should never brought her car here, because she wanted to drive to go home. She can't drive.
Oh.
Luckily I had the keys, but
Yeah.
I got cursed out every day I got home.
Oh wow.
So
So it was like taking her to a daycare center. What I'm hearing is, it was like when you got up in the morning to go to work, you had to get her dressed and take
yeah,
her to a daycare center and then pick her up. So it's like almost.
They, I'm sorry. They came to guide her, which is a blessing. They came to pick her up before I went to work. So they
And how
had
long
it
did they
planned.
keep her?
Stay a whole day.
Wow. So it's
So
like
That
a
is a
daycare
blessing.
center. When you
it
think
is,
about
yeah.
it, it's just like
It
with
was a
your
blessing.
kid.
But I had to find one, because we visited several of them, and several of them told me that she wasn't sick enough. What did that mean?
What?
Yes,
Oh
I had.
my.
Yes, it was a crazy. She had Alzheimer's, but that wasn't enough to get her into those facilities. So and I'm still very close to the adult daycare director to this day.
That's good.
Yeah, we have a great relationship. So yes, so a whole lot of dynamics with that, and so I
Wow.
recommend that daycare to other people that I know, and several people that I know now go to them, because they're still in business. They're and they're good. They keep them engaged. They play music. Like I said, they go on trips, a lot of things, which is a great thing.
Yeah,
So
because
that's
they need that. I
you need
mean, and
that.
you don't want them
Yeah,
to physically decline over the years,
right.
because if they still have their physical abilities, you don't want to put that fire out, because then they sit
Right.
around and they draw up.
Yep.
Wow.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they definitely kept her active.
So Rosalind, though, when you said like there were some centers that said she wasn't sick enough, did they feel like she had to meet certain requirements, even though she has the disease? Like they felt she wasn't at a certain level, and that's not the type of patient or client they dealt with.
Apparently, yes. Apparently, just because the brain, that disease or dementia, I guess, since she was physically in
Mhm.
Mm.
good shape, and I'm just making something. It just kind of threw me out the water. I just left after
Yeah,
that.
I'm thrown off. That's what
I
made me
wonder if
ask.
it's a funding.
Wow, wow. It just didn't make any. I just looked at them like they're crazy. There was several of them said that until I found this.
Wow.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh, forget it. apparently.
I wonder if they made that determination based off of the amount of money that they can get if you are sicker or something.
I don't know, but it was crazy. It
Well,
just
maybe they
Yeah.
didn't have the staff equipped to deal, because
yeah,
sometimes
that's
what
good.
comes with Alzheimer's, and I hope I'm pronouncing it right, like they're wanderers,
Yeah,
and you have to keep, when someone is physically able to do things like you say about the hitting and all of
Oh
that,
yeah, she was
people
mobile.
probably are like, yeah, we're not prepared to have a boxing match
Yeah.
today,
but
or we're not prepared to chase people,
right. But the thing with this, I'm the only one to get that kind of stuff. When she was at that center and all, I mean, they loved her. She didn't do any of those kinds of things. You know,
Mm.
it was, like I said, depending on, I'm the one that got the brunt of that. And I just look at it, I was her caregiver. So,
Yeah.
and that's the situation with the caregivers, they get the brunt of that type of behavior
Absolutely.
Yeah.
because
I agree.
they see you. And I would say my brother was a good child. I was not, but I took care of her.
Because you was making all the hard decisions. It was
Right,
just like the mother, when your
right,
mother and your father, you want to go to
Mm-hmm.
the one that, yeah, that's
right.
gonna give you the decision. I mean, the what you wanted. If you want some candy, I'm gonna go to my father because he gonna let me have it. But I don't want to go to the mean lady.
Right.
That's just the way it was.
And that's how it was because she
Mhm.
knew, but my brother, he was there every time and I needed him, he was there. If I take her over his house to hang out, if I had to do something, I can take her there. But I knew, and she knew, he ain't gonna make her do anything.
Yeah. So Rosalind, I know you had the daycare center during the day, the adult center during the day. What was an evening like once you got home from work? Because you had early morning starts. You had to get up, get yourself ready, get your mom ready. So what was those evenings like, having your mom, needing to feed her and prepare for the evening?
Challenging
Mm.
because yes, I had to bathe her. She fought me on those situations, changing the clothes, feeding. She loved to eat, so that was a great thing. So when I give her food, no problem. But the thing is, with that, she forgot she ate.
Okay.
Mm.
So in those situations, and I tell people when they forget, if they're like that, they forget, have snacks or something, especially healthy snacks if you can. Something that they like, depending on it, if they just like some certain, and if it's not healthy, if it's something they like to calm them, and then you have peace of mind, get it to 'em.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, you know. So I had to learn a lot of this stuff. I had to learn through trial and error. So and I used to tell people I was winging it practically the whole time because
Mhm.
nobody was there to tell me these things. So now I can tell others.
Yes.
So yeah, so I would have snacks or things like that after she ate a full course meal. You say, "I'm hungry. You didn't feed me. You just ate." But so those are kinds of things. Like I said, when it came to going to bed and it all depends on where they are in the disease.
Yeah.
The
Okay.
more progressive it is, and in certain stages they can be combative. But towards the end, after she was getting really, she was just not there. She was just I can just do, pretty much. But it was still a hard,
Yeah.
because I still
Because
had to clean
physically,
her. She was bedridden at one time, so
yeah.
you have to
Mm.
change her. You have to, still have to bathe. You still have to do all these things.
Mm.
Wow,
So yeah, the
Rosalind.
evenings, depending on
I
what
bet.
stage she was in, and yeah, it was hard. So, and then I thank God. Then my children, at that time, at one point they were in high school, one was in college. So we was, my son at one time took a semester off, which is a blessing to help me.
Okay.
And my daughter, towards the end, that's when she went to school. But but they were there. They
Mm-hmm.
That's
Wow.
helped me.
good. Yeah.
They helped me
That's
along
a
the way.
lot. That's
So
a lot.
I actually, like I'm saying, this journey out of all this, I wrote a book about it, about my journey and my family's journey as caring for my mom who had the disease, and I also wrote
Okay.
a children's book from their standpoint.
Mhm.
Oh, now
That's
that's
good.
beautiful.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so parents can talk, and at the end it talks about how how a parent can talk to a child about the disease and what they can do.
Okay.
Because
Yes.
I didn't know what to do at the time. So
Yeah, you're
now,
figuring it out. Yeah.
you have to figure it out. So with all that said, that's how Caregiver Biz didn't start until year and a half ago, really.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
It's new because, like I said, I was going through the book thing, and the book, and like, and I think the book turned into a play after my girlfriend read it. She's a playwright, so she wrote a play about it. So we've done the
Oh,
play.
wow.
In 2019, we did it. And pandemic hit. We did it again June 22nd this year.
I would love to see that. I would
Yeah.
love to see
We're
that.
going to do it again because we have been people who have seen it. It's a and I it's a teaching. I would say it's funny. It's you get a lot out of it, and that's the way it's written. So to teach caregivers and to teach
Mm-hmm.
people not only about the disease, but
Hmm.
what can you do, And also another thing I want to talk about: caregivers need care.
Yes.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
one thing I did not get. I did not know that. I didn't know I needed care.
Mhm.
I was literally worn out,
Mm.
drained, and
And it
then
takes its toll on you. It definitely
it takes
Yeah,
takes its
it
a
toll
does.
on you.
And then with the disease, this thing's called sundowning. When
Hmm.
she got to
Mm-hmm.
that, she talked all night long. I had to be at work at 6:30, so I'm listening to her, and I
What
couldn't
is
leave.
sundowning?
Sundowning is when the sun. I'm kind of like the sun goes down. Their behavior changes.
Mm.
Yeah, and they get agitated more. That was another part. My mother, in addition to getting agitated and all, she also in the middle of the night she talking to her family. All of them deceased by then. So she talking to her
Mm.
father, she talking to her mama, her daddy all night long. And I couldn't leave her in a room by herself because she started wandering. And that's another part. They'll get up. So I had to put her in the room with me. So I'm hearing her talking to these people all night long, knowing I got to go to work the next morning. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, in a couple of hours.
One of my
Mm-hmm.
friends, her mother had sundown dementia. And I want to say, I hope I'm not mixing it up, but I want to say either she started losing her memory when the sun went down, or she started remembering things when the sun went down. And I got to
Oh,
ask
wow.
her about that
Yeah,
because when she,
it can affect people differently
yeah,
Yeah.
because sundowning, they don't know. I'm not sure they really know what it is, but it's one of the parts of the disease. Yeah,
Yeah,
Mm.
I heard that it can people can experience like a lot more
yeah,
disorientation. Sometimes they might have more anxiety during that
yes,
time
absolutely,
and things of that sort. Talking with a friend who
yes.
was dealing with that. And so, it's a lot of different things can happen
Mhm.
during that period. And it can be a lot. It can
It's
be a lot for the caregiver if they're in a facility.
yes,
The people that are caring for them in the facility. It's a lot of work around. Sundown and around that time. I think like the facilities things start changing because a lot
hmm
of patients are dealing with different things at that
Wow.
time.
right. Yeah,
Some people might be screaming more,
it
just
could.
screaming.
That's it. Yeah, it's a lot, and I
It's a
always say
lot.
everybody's different. So
Everyone,
can't
yeah,
can't say, well, since this person did this way, mine's
yeah,
going to do the same thing. No, phases are different. Everything is different with each one. So you have to take it
yeah.
pretty much one day. I don't even say day at a time.
Moment to moment.
One
Moment to
hour at a
moment. So
time.
you just pretty much have to do that. So yeah, like I said, dealing with that, then going to work every day, then had children and all that. Yeah, it's a lot. It was a whole lot.
Mm.
so
However, and like I said, this caregiving, like I said, my business just started about a year and a half, almost 2 years ago. But talking to caregivers for years and years and years and trying to help them, I realized, maybe I can do something more to help. And one of the things um, self-care
Yes.
is key. You know, last year we did, because men, that's another thing. Men are like the silent caregivers. You hear more about women
Mm-hmm.
a lot, but there are a lot of male caregivers out there. So my organization decided to do an event for male caregivers.
I like
Really?
that.
Wow.
That's
And we
nice.
did that last year, and it was a success. You know, we got the men together. We had a speaker, a male speaker who cared for his mom who had Alzheimer's, and we had resources for them. We gave them like little bags, you know, and other things that they can for takeaways, and they have information that they can come, and somebody can help them. There's a male caregiver support group out there. We gave them that information.
Because they're not going to ask for help.
They're
They're
not.
They're going
They're
to
not.
suffer in silence.
So that's
Mhm.
why, and our goal is to do it again.
I like that.
Yeah, so that's one thing. Another thing, and I'm involved with an organization called Dementia Friendly America in Prince George's County.
Mm-mm.
So I partnered with them a couple of times. We're getting ready to do a family caregiver conference
Mm.
shortly. So that's something we're trying to get that together, and that is for caregivers, again, provide resources and speakers and all. So because I know they have questions. Like I said, I know I had questions. So
Mm-hmm.
whatever we can do to help, and that also gets them away from their caregiver responsibility. Preferably, they have somebody can sit with their loved one for that time, so they can come to absorb and get information.
Yes.
Yeah, and another thing we're working on is doing a caregiver prayer breakfast. Same scenario, getting a
Okay.
speaker, and things like that. So we're working on doing things, like that to help. Give them food. Make sure they get fed. They don't have to
Yeah.
cook.
Yeah, by the
Yeah.
time you tired, by the time, just like with your kids, by the time you feed them, you just snacking on stuff or you just eating
Yeah.
all the wrong stuff
Yep.
because you're so tired.
Right, you're exhausted. So yeah.
So
So that's
what I
yeah.
hear you say is that you're more so you're giving you're giving resources, you're giving information. Is that what caregiver is? Just like providing information to the caregiver in order for them to take care of themselves.
Yes, that
Okay.
is for them as also for the loved one. Because sometimes, for example, my organization also gives incontinence supplies. They're expensive.
Mm.
Mm.
Yes, they are.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
very expensive. I know when I was mama, I know I had to pay for them things. So we give that for free.
Oh.
That's not. Oh
So
yeah.
they are
Very nice.
people ask for it. Yes, we will provide that. So yeah, that's something that we offer. Because I have a friend of mine who she told me certain things she needs, so I gave her all the stuff I had. She was like,
Mhm.
"Oh my gosh, you serious?" Yes, because I know how much that stuff costs. So
Yeah.
we provide like incontinence supplies to them. Like I said, our goal is to do different resources. Our focus, and I want to say this, our focus is because I don't know if anybody's heard, but Prince George's County rated number 2 as the most prevalent county with Alzheimer's.
No.
Mm-mm.
Oh.
Baltimore County, Miami-Dade, and another county. And they looked at 3,100 plus counties in the United States.
This
Wow.
is out of the nation.
What?
Nation,
And they're number two?
Prince George's County is number
I wonder why. I mean,
Wow.
You didn't even
yeah.
say the
Oh,
state of Maryland. You said Prince George's County,
It's
just the
county.
county.
So even though my focus is Prince George's County, I do help other people. For example, I had a gentleman called me. His mom lives in Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
So he was there. She doesn't have Alzheimer's, but she has other ailments. So he was like, well, Mother, can you help me? I need to talk to the Department of Aging there. So what kind of questions? So I gave him a list of questions to ask them. So
Okay.
even though my focus is this county, Prince George's County, I don't mind providing or helping other people in other areas to get resources. Like him, I had another friend. Her girlfriend lives in Tennessee. The mom doesn't, so I was able to show her where to get resources or help, and that, in that state.
And
So
that's helpful.
yeah, so that's like I said, that's so we don't have a problem, even though we're very small, there's only a few of us, have a problem reaching out to give resources to other people in other areas.
Well, thank you, Rosalind. That's good to know because, like I said, I'm in Michigan. Even though I'm from DC, I am in Michigan. And so I might just need to know sometimes when we're caregiving, just as a parent, and I'm advocating for my children, when I'm talking to other parents, sometimes they just need to know what kind of questions to ask. Sometimes we're just missing those key elements. And so I know that I can reach out to you and be like, Rosalind, like, this is what I'm dealing with. Like, I'm knowing where maybe to go, but I'm not sure what I should be asking for. And so it's helpful that you're like, I can still help people, even if you're not in Prince George's County.
Right, and that's the goal, to help, because caregiver is not focused on one area.
That's right.
That's right.
Even from a legal standpoint, I mean, I know we're talking about, like, I know you mentioned how you and your brother went to South Carolina and you brought your mom back up here. There is some things that people have to go through from a legal standpoint to make that happen.
Yes.
Because even though, first of all, you got to go through proving that they can't make their own decisions. That can be extremely hard. And then when you figure out that they can't, even giving information about how to go about it from a legal standpoint.
Yes, that's another thing, because I'm telling you, we were blessed. And I strongly advocate people to get the will, your power of attorney, your health, financial power of attorneys. Because one thing, I said, my mom was very sharp. She taught us stuff even though we didn't know we were learning it. We were going through her house, after I moved here, we found her will. She never told us she did it, which is a good, I'm glad she did. So she was still lucid enough that we went to the lawyer who did her will to get her power of attorney. So we just prayed that day, my brother and I, that she was in, a decent state of mind at times. Because the lady had to talk to her by herself. I'm like, oh, Lord. we didn't know what was going to happen. Is she going to agree to give it to us? So we were able to do that. So I highly, highly recommend people now, period. Don't wait. Your loved ones, yourself, get your legal affairs in order now.
Absolutely.
And because of what she did, and because of what I was dealing with as far as medical and all, I got my long-term care insurance at a young age. I highly recommend it. Get it. I got my estate planning, I trust. So everything that I have, I'm taking care of. I share to my children. They already know. These are things people need to do early. Do not wait. I even tell my children, they're young. They're in their 30s. Get your stuff together.
Don't wait.
That's right.
That's right.
Don't wait.
Get it together. Don't wait. Long-term care insurance is expensive, but the younger you get it, the cheaper it is.
And when you get it in order, make sure, because the thing is, this is one thing that we talked about before. When people have these things in order, it's almost like they follow the protocol that used to be back in the day. Like, I got my stuff in order, but don't nobody know where it is.
Right.
I mean, that just don't make sense.
It's like we take one step ahead and we still 2 steps back.
Because it's like it's kept as a secret.
It is right.
Like my mom's will. We didn't know where it is.
Have it together.
Right.
So let's go even further to say, listen, you have to, if you have somebody as a power of attorney, they should know it.
Yes.
If you have documents in order, somebody should know where it is.
Yes.
It should not be where you have these things in order and then nobody can find them. And then
Correct.
the last thing people say, now I know sister wanted me to have the house, and then that becomes the conflict, you
Yep.
know.
It
Uh,
becomes a problem.
yeah, it does.
I said,
So
put it in writing, put it in order. I had a
Yes.
friend of mine whose mom recently passed. She, again, like my mom, she know mom had a will. They found it, but there were some other dynamics and she had to deal with her siblings. See, the good part about us, you know, me and my brother, we're, you know, we talk.
Mhm.
And he was very straight up with me, even doing it. He said, you know what? Mom lives with you. I'm your support. I'm like, okay, you know, and
it's a
he, so,
blessing.
you know, and that also, you know, freed me up from being so angry.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because I guess too,
Mhm.
what some people may say, well, listen, if it's mom, the girl need to take care of it. If it's dad, then the guy needs to take care of it. But what people fail to realize is that's not no one man job.
It's
No,
Absolutely
not.
not. It's a
no,
team. It takes everybody.
it
It
takes
does take a
everybody.
team. And it sounds like
Mhm.
Rosalind was still raising, like at the time, school age children. She had
Yes,
a high schooler and a college student. And first of all, because we've all been there or in that position now, that's
Mhm.
a task in itself.
you're right.
Yes, it is.
And keep in mind, when before my mother moved here, they weren't in high school and college. They were in middle school.
See,
They're
yes,
early middle
that's
school, so they
yes.
grew up learning how to
Hmm.
help take care of her. You know,
Yeah.
Wow.
like yeah,
Rosalind, you were, oh my goodness. When I
the
tell
grace of
you,
God.
yeah, and
Yes.
that's what people fail to realize. I think again, I've dealt with it for my daughter for all these years. It was just like second nature. If I got sick, I had to just deal with it
Push
because
through.
there was no when she's up and about and I got the flu, for instance, there was no taking no NyQuil and sleeping it off.
Right.
It's like
Mm-mm.
you can't do that when you have a individual that you fully have to take care of.
They're
Mm-hmm.
So it's
dependent on
so
you.
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
depending on you, you know how
Absolutely.
Yeah.
many times I had to just what I did was took off work and drowned myself in medicine
Mm-hmm.
and was prepared when she came home. But you know how
Right.
you have the after effects, you're still not completely there.
Yeah.
Then
Correct.
on weekends, it's like, what can I do? And it's almost like with the caregiver, I go as far, and I always mention this that my son had to step into that role at
Mhm.
like 8 years old,
Right.
you know,
Yes.
because there were times that I was sick and I was like, babe, I just need you to keep an eye on her, make
Mm-hmm.
sure she stay in this room. And, so it even
Yeah.
trickles down to your children.
Yes, it
So what
does.
you
Yes.
say about
Yes.
your children?
Right. Yes. And, you know,
Yeah.
and they were awesome. I tell you, and they struggled. She fought them at times.
Mm.
All
And
right.
it's probably hard for them to
It
see
was hard.
grandma.
It was hard to
Yeah.
see because my children's book is called um what was it the day grandma changed. You know,
Wow.
we're
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
yeah, yeah, because yeah, she changed, and you know, this was not the grandma they were used to.
Mhm.
Mm-mm.
So
But
yeah,
another thing, I think a caregiver biz, I'm pretty sure you've already encountered this, but for some people that don't know when the disease is starting, because I've known, I think we had Nadine on here and we had Montrese where they started seeing little signs like, I think Nadine said something about her father was driving. They didn't even know that he was dealing with dementia
right,
and he was driving until they start seeing him keep having accidents because he forget about the light. So
yeah,
I think sometimes people don't realize it's a gradual coming
yeah,
on. And
It
like you say,
is.
there are others that flip the switch one day and it's full blown.
right.
Mm.
Like I said, it affects people differently. The same for my mom. We did not know what was going on with her. We suspect now that she probably was. It probably started like several years later, like 5 to 10 years later. I mean, earlier.
Earlier.
Yeah, we felt now. But again, she was in South Carolina with her, you know, her siblings and all, and they either didn't really see it and all until, like I said, until I started getting those calls from my aunt. And like I said, my my brother's brother was married to that lady, the one who was calling me. And he
Mm-hmm.
had it. So that's what I told my cousin when I saw her after she came to, two of my cousins came to the play. And I asked both of them, I'm like, why didn't y'all tell me what was going on with my mom when y'all knew your dads?
Yeah.
Right.
So
Right.
Help me understand this.
so
And
Rosalind, with the disease, are there any concerns for you, your brother, or your children to get the disease?
it's in our family. We are fully aware of that.
Okay.
So there are a lot of things that you can do. We can't say whether we're going to, I've already claimed the buck stops with that generation.
Amen.
Mm-hmm.
His name,
That's
Hmm.
right.
Amen.
Absolutely.
eating properly, cut out fast foods, eating vegetables, all that. Eating extremely healthy is one.
Okay.
Exercise is another.
Yes.
Social engagements is another. Doing things to stimulate your mind. Learn how to do new things. These are kinds of things they say that can minimize or reduce your risk of getting it.
Okay.
Okay.
So that's a lot of things. You know, I never liked avocados. I eat them like crazy now. You know, leafy green vegetables, beet, all those kinds of things. Healthy foods. You know,
Hmm.
don't eat a lot of red meat and all that stuff like that. So salmon, fish, those are
Mhm.
kind of things that you know.
Omega.
Yeah,
Yes.
Just having
Okay.
a really good
omega-3.
diet.
You
Hmm.
need omega, yeah. Those kinds of things are very important. Like I say, exercising, doing walks and things like that. Right.
Are
I
That
there
would
any?
definitely say it's the diet. I've heard
Yeah.
that
diet, that's key.
And
because there are
physical
some
activity.
Physical activities, yes.
there's some they said that some dementias, I don't know how true this is, but it can come from the result of having diabetes or
Yeah,
having,
that's
yeah,
yes.
I've heard that as
Hmm.
well.
Yes.
Yeah.
I the play that we did, like I said, we did the play in June 22nd. In between the shows, the 12 o'clock show, I had a panel discussion. My
Hmm.
doctor was there. We had a nutritionist who's also caring for her mom who has Alzheimer's. And we had somebody from Us Against Alzheimer's there. And after they introduced themselves, I opened it up to the audience. And one of the questions was that about diabetes. And our doctor said, yes, you
Wow.
can. So you got to watch your numbers. You know, I have a friend of mine, he was talking about how to eat and don't drink sodas and all. I saw her at church the other day. She said, my numbers have gone out. She was in the audience when he was saying, I was looking at her face and she was like, oh my God. She said she hasn't drinking the soda since that.
Yeah.
That's
Since then.
good.
She said
Yeah.
her numbers have gone down. So she's starting to eat better. She listened. And that's the key.
Yeah.
That is it.
You,
That's
can, you
right
gotta you
there.
gotta do what you gotta do. You know, if
Hmm.
you have to, maintain your health.
And it's
Especially
great
when
to
you have
start
that
young.
capability, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was about to say, especially when you have
Hmm.
the capabilities right now,
Hmm.
because at some point your health can take a turn where stuff is irreversible. But
Right.
people forget that right now, with all your faculties and your mobility, you can make a change. You
Yeah.
Yes.
actually have control. It's
Absolutely.
self-control.
Yeah.
So I
Absolutely.
love that that was the response from her. It makes it seem
Hmm.
like when the message goes out, if it just hits one,
Yes.
and I know it hit a lot, but she took it
She took it
seriously.
seriously. And
Yes.
yeah, she
Yes.
told me the other day, she said, my number was lower than, since she made a comment. She said, I've never had my numbers this low since I was a baby. She was funny.
Wow.
I
So
think
as
she
we
was
know,
she was
everything is about the diet. And I
Yeah.
think that's
yes,
something all of us are finding out because as we know, a lot of the fast foods,
yeah,
I
not
mean,
good
the
for you.
meats, everything. And I will say that even for my household for the last 9 months, we have removed all of the GMO products. And I
Yeah,
talk about this with
good.
my son because I'm like, listen, you guys don't understand when they say something is bioengineered, that
Mhm.
looks at to me it's like a chemical based thing.
Correct.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and I'm
Hmm.
like, people are taking this stuff and not paying attention to it, but it's like that stuff was not in a food when we were younger.
Correct.
But now when you go into the store, I think Manetta Fields brought this to my attention. She put that on Facebook one day, and from that Every time I go in that store, I look at everything about that bioengineer. If you start while you're in your 20s,
Mm-hmm.
you will make a, even younger, it won't be
Yes.
such a
Listen,
It's
is it
healthy
too late for us
habits.
older
yeah,
ones? Is it
Right.
too
No, it's
late?
not, because you taking care of your grandson,
yeah,
and the better you do,
yeah,
like I learned when I eat healthy, I started getting upset. Like, they eating up all my cauliflower. These people,
yeah,
they eating up every time I cook salmon, it's gone.
yeah,
Everybody want to eat, and then I had to change my, like, well, they following me. Isn't that what
Correct.
Yeah.
we want? Them to follow us and them to eat what we're eating. So no, it's not too late, Bunny.
it's
Then
not.
and then
It's
that
not.
physical
Never too late.
activity is,
Right.
yes, it's just a good, we got to keep these bodies moving
Yeah.
Yeah.
too.
Yes.
They can't be dormant. So I
Right.
really like this. And Rosalind, what I want to ask is that what are some key things that come to mind that you would give to caregivers, that you would tell us or anyone you meet what we should do to care for ourselves? Because a lot of people, we have them, they come on here, we've had caregivers of the elderly, of their individual with a disability, and they just are burnt out and nobody can do it but them, and we
Right.
get it. But let's be real, some of them have ended up in the hospital or ill
Yeah.
themselves, and when
Right.
you're in the hospital, you can't care for the person you love.
Absolutely. You cannot.
So what can you share that we can take away, some nuggets that we can start implementing and looking at our lives right now and say, we need to
Absolutely.
change that, we need to
Yeah.
work on that?
And that's about self-care. Self-care can be 10 minutes a day. It can be, when your loved one is asleep, you go get in a bubble bath, you just get your book and just read in the bath, whatever you can do. Get a massage. My daughter is now a massage therapist. She makes sure I get a massage every month.
I
Oh,
know
that's
that's right.
nice.
Go get, find somebody that could just sit with your love. Go get a massage, get your nails done. Men go, whoever, do something at least, every day. Even if you're in the house, sometimes you can invite your. For example, my mom was in when she was those days when she was at the adult daycare and I was home because I didn't have to go to work that day or something. I would find, even though I didn't do things, I suggest now what I should have done is get out the house and did something.
Yeah.
Go do something. Even you go to the store and just look around, you're not buying
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah.
Get out the house, just sit in a corner someplace. If you like reading, you like doing, watch a friend of mine told me that what she does, she comes and watch TV and look at comedies.
I like that.
Do this,
Yeah.
do something for yourself.
For
Something
yourself.
that you like, you know. So that's what caregivers need to, do. Start thinking about what do I like to do and take the time, even if it's 10, 15, 20, to do that one thing. If it's watch television for 11, 10, 15, and just laugh the whole time, that's a
To
release.
take your
It
mind
is a
off.
release.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I
Mhm.
said, massages. Go do something. Just go walking. Talk to a friend. Get on the phone. Talk to your best friend. Something,
Mhm.
that way you can get a release.
And I will
Yes.
say that for me, I didn't have a lot of outings like when you think about the weekends and stuff. I
Mhm.
didn't have those times where someone could watch my daughter.
Right.
So my daughter was with me 100% of the time. What I will say is I started taking off work. I would take off work like one day, put my daughter on the bus. I even went to the movies and slept. I
Good.
would go to the
Yes,
movies sometimes. I would
it's
never
good.
see the movie. I would take a blanket and my go. When I wake back up, I see the credits. I would be the last one in there.
But that
Another thing I
good.
did, I would tell my son, and my son remember this. He would always be like, "Mom, come on, let me see what y'all." Every night they had to be in the bed at 9 o'clock because I needed a
You need it.
mental break. So
Yeah.
from 9 to 10, Rosin, that's what I would do. I would go in the bath. I was like, "This is my R&R every
Mhm.
single day, so I don't get backed
Yes.
up."
Right.
Yeah, I
Yes.
did. So those are little things because I know some people. I know we had last week on caring communities, and one thing that we wanted to bring in is that respite care roster
Yes.
that
Mm-hmm.
people for people to sign up. We're definitely encouraging that, and we're going to
I
put that
agree.
on our page.
You
But
should.
if you
Good.
cannot get that, I pray that you have a job that you can just take leave. Even if you got to take leave and say, today it's just going to be about me. And you have it
Yes.
where you can take leave once a month or once every
Absolutely.
2 weeks.
Right.
Yeah.
And all that is so important.
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling
It
you,
is.
it's extremely important. And once in a while, there's a class out there called Powerful Tools for Caregivers, and yeah.
Mhm.
So I'm a facilitator for. We didn't teach it. We haven't taught it in a while, but it also teaches about self care.
Yeah.
So next time that
Mm.
class come up, I don't mind, sharing that information with you.
Yes.
And it's for caregivers. It's one day. It's for 6 weeks, but it's one day. It's like an hour and a half, 2 hours, and caregivers loved it, and it helped them to learn how to balance.
Yeah.
But you know
I
what's
think that's what's
funny?
missing is balance
Balance,
Mhm.
usually.
But
Yep.
you know
Because we
what's
really
funny,
heavy
though?
on one end and not on the,
right?
Yeah.
This has been the need for years. Why is it
yes.
just becoming such a this is a really big topic. I always go back to what happened back in the day with our grandparents and stuff when people who were considered senile. What happened? You didn't have all these agencies. You didn't have all the respite care and
It wasn't
everything.
that much sickness back then either.
I'm
But
about to say, Paula, you just said the food. So look at our
Yeah.
food. Look
Food,
at all these sicknesses. They are much, much more
We didn't have that
prevalent
much
today.
cancer back
And
then. Yeah.
yes. And
this
now
is a
look at what
hot
we're
this
dealing
is
with.
this is a hot
the
topic
food,
everywhere you go.
Yeah.
Caregivers or taking care of somebody, it's almost becoming like this is the new money maker.
right?
Yeah.
You know, the
Yeah,
day,
Absolutely.
yeah, you it's almost like you need just as many of these daycare centers for adults that you need for kids.
yes,
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Pretty much.
that's so
And we
And
true.
they're
should really
popping up
focus
like that
more.
too.
We are popping
Yeah.
up.
And we should
Mhm.
focus more on self care. We always talk
Absolutely.
about self care tied to caregivers, but even just having a family, dealing with your family, you're working, mom and dad working, we still need self care, and that
Yes.
that it's not widely talked about.
It's
Yes,
not.
and it's so important.
It's
I used to tell
underrated.
people that
Yep.
it is, and I used to tell them because, like I said, when I was going through this, I never heard of any of this stuff, and I know I didn't care for myself. I
Yeah.
was,
Mm.
and that's why I stress it all the time to caregivers. Figure out a way to care for yourself, and that's why I try
Yeah.
to find things that I can share with other caregivers. Well, don't you do this? You do something because
Hmm.
it is
Yes.
and it's difficult.
Well, Rosalind, you say you didn't care for yourself, and I think of like my parents. They're just a different generation. They
Yeah.
rarely took off of work. They
Right.
Hmm.
worked 30 plus years on a job. They
Mhm.
took care of business. They took care of their household, their children. They really did not always exhibit, and this is, I'm just speaking of our community sometimes, of
Mhm.
really thinking of yourself. It kind of was
Correct.
the look
That was
self.
selfish
It was
thinking.
selfish.
Yes.
So
Yeah, you
today
want to encourage
you're
that.
dealing with
Right.
so
Right.
Hmm.
much more, and we have to get a different attitude about
We
it, or
do.
we're going to
So
be burnt
true.
Yeah.
Yes. It's so
Yep.
true. You have to think it's not being selfish to care for yourself. That's
out.
Yeah.
not selfish.
Taking those trips every so often.
Yes.
You
Oh,
know,
we need a podcast.
this
Self
is one of
care. Self care.
the
Yes,
most people didn't
yes,
travel. They worked, they came home, they took care of their families, they paid bills, they traveled.
yep. That's what
Travel
they.
was not a part of that.
Mhm.
Right. So
No.
true.
Man,
So
this is
true.
so important. I'm so glad.
Yes.
I told you when I saw this topic, I ran to her table because I'm telling y'all, this was something that I always thought about. I sat around and I just dreamt about a day when I could focus on myself. I could say,
Yeah.
I want to go to the movies today, and then not realizing, oh Lord, Morgan don't want to go to the movies. What am I gonna do? And it's like, well, that's not an option. Well,
Yeah.
sometimes when that movie came out, it was like, well, you can't see it. The next time you see it, it was when it's on DVD. But it kind of can be disheartening because you sit around and watch everybody else live, and you feel as though
Yeah.
you're not living, you're just
Right.
Yeah.
existing.
Right. Mhm.
Yeah,
Existing. That's it. That's
That's
it.
Yeah.
so true.
Ron-
I like that. Rosalind touched on that. It's honestly, if we're not careful, you can let yourself go
You
and you
can.
won't recognize yourself.
Yep.
Mhm.
So she
You
said,
will.
"Do stuff you like." Would
Yeah.
you? And then you got to be like, "What do I like?" Some people
Yeah.
like to crochet. You
Yeah.
got to get back to crocheting then.
Yeah, and like me, I just learned how to crochet again.
Wow.
Yeah, because my godmother taught me when I was a kid. And, you know, when you got in high school and all, you don't want to do none of that stuff. So I haven't done it in a while. And I said, you know what? I'm going to take a class. And I did so earlier this year. So now I started again. She told me how to crochet and knit. So I'm doing the crochet part
I
first.
love
It's
it.
something different. I'm like, okay.
And it's relaxing.
Yeah.
It's relaxing. I'm like, oh, my, I can do this.
And I put puzzles together. Now,
Me
actually,
too.
the last time I could put a puzzle together, but this right here
Yeah.
is pushing me. Not that I don't do other things. I will say, thank God, getting married, hubby has come in, and I get to do more. So, you know, it definitely is helping. But for those that don't know, find your inner whatever makes you
Whatever it
happy.
is. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And,
This
and
has been awesome. Thank you so much,
Yes.
Rosalind, for
well,
sharing.
thank you for inviting me.
Yes.
Oh my
Yes.
goodness.
But what I love is I got all her email addresses and
Right.
her number.
We can reach
so
out for
I
some
know how to get in
resources.
touch. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
And for those that
Very
don't know,
nice.
we have her email, her website going across the bottom. If you need help, reach out. Sometimes
please.
it's just sharing information. And this is, I
Yes.
appreciate the fact that Rosalind is doing this. I mean, and y'all, we had to go through a lot to get Rosalind on this show. Rosalind is living.
Yeah, like I said, I am on a mission. I just believe this is God telling me this is what He wants me to do to support and take caregivers and all. Like I said,
Yes.
and I'll send y'all the information about my book and when the next
Yes.
thing is. So
We
yeah,
will
you
post
can
it
have
on
all
our page for sure. And
Yes.
so I just, again, we thank you, Rosalind, for taking the time to come, and
Yes.
what you're doing is you vamp something in all of us. I mean,
Yep.
I see that. It's like you renewed my mind
Well,
into,
praise God. That's a
yeah.
blessing. I'm glad. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so I definitely want to say thank you. I appreciate you coming on. And again, guys, look at this website and get some information from Rosalind. We're going to definitely most of our guests that we have on here, we're going to stay in touch.
You stay in
We may
touch.
even
Yes.
Absolutely.
have her back on because we may want you to come on and promote that book.
Y'all
You know,
right?
Yes.
yes.
She needs to.
And
Absolutely.
like I said, I use that. That's even though I wrote it, it's also stuff that it's a teaching book too. I have stuff
Mhm.
tips in there. I put tips and resources and all that in there as well. So yes, absolutely.
And you have firsthand knowledge and experience.
Yeah.
That's right.
Absolutely. I was a caregiver after my mom 3 other times. So yes.
Wow. So you know what you're talking about.
Yes.
Ooh, I said, Lord, either I didn't do it right the first time or I did something right. I one or the other. I don't know what it was.
But he gave you 3 more
You was that
chances.
good.
2 more chances.
Rosalind, you was that good.
I'll give Bunny and Crystal an opportunity to say something, and then you close us out, Rosalind. But I thank you
Thank you.
so much. Yeah.
Thank you,
Oh,
Rosalind. That's
thank
all I
you.
have. Just
Yes.
thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you
Yes.
so much. This has been a pleasure. I really appreciate this. And so
Mhm.
thank Paula that you saw me.
Oh, you know, man, hubby was eating up everybody's candy and running around. But yes, I'm glad that we touched bases. And
me
again,
too.
we will reach out to you again because I would love to have you back on the show again.
Okay, awesome. I
Absolutely.
appreciate it. Thank you so much. Y'all enjoy the rest of your evening.
You
Yes,
too.
you do the same.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.